Don't hold it, just hook the hands over. So what we want is, we don't want the feeling that the stick is pulling the head forward. So the shoulders need to be open enough, and you should be able to slip it down the back so it's off the shoulders, in the crook of your elbows. The idea is that the stick at the back is sort of pushing the spine forwards a bit. Where the stick is now, that's where we tend to have a little bit of a kink in the spine, which stops the thymus from reaching up properly. Just turning, so just start off just very gentle. And like last time, just try and get it coming from the chair. So I push down into the chair with one buttock, and that pushes me round. So my mind is very much with the mechanics of the action, rather than in the stick or in the effect of the action. I'm pushing down with my buttocks to move the stick around. Feel the muscles around the lower part of the spine. Bring it up to behind the neck. So no sense that this is pushing the head or the neck forwards. You're pushing the stick back with your neck rather than pushing your neck forwards with the stick. And then just a few twists from here. Again, try and feel it in the lower back. Rearing up, just looking up. Feel the thymus, this point here on the sternum, just lifting. And feel the sacrum and the tail trying to dig down into this chair. And then just let the spine curl. So now it's like your dantian is trying to rise and your thymus is trying to dip down into the dantian. So now the opposite extreme. Okay, now just feel the dantian. So maybe put the thumb inside the navel and just let the fingers rest underneath it. Stillness. Mind in dantian is the stillness of my mind. But the reason I'm becoming still is not in order to retreat and disconnect from the world, but so that my listening can probe out into the world. So just consider an animal like a dog or a cat, you know, when their hackles rise, when they get frightened or angry, fierce, the hairs on their back, especially the back of their neck, stand up. And what's interesting about the word hackle is that it comes from hook. So there's this feeling that these erectile hairs that stand up on end have got a little hook on the end. What we want to feel is that mind in the dantian is the contraction that forces my hackles to rise and extend into the world and catch, hook on. Something happening here is making me extend outwards. So I'm not extending outwards by sending my mind out like this. I'm actually drawing my mind in here, and that is forcing the hairs out. So that's mind in dantian. If you found yourself in a situation that was just very frightening or dangerous, literally you would stop breathing. You'd become so alert and so quiet, and the heart would really be pounding. That's the sense of mind in dantian. Imagine an animal hunting, so like a tiger hunting in the jungle. So it would be very centered within itself, but also its energy would be probing out. It would be listening for the slightest sound, smelling the scent. There's almost a sense that it's moving, not from inside, but from this really intense, vibrant, alert connection that it has with the world around it. Almost like each one of these hackles is like a tentacle that it can haul itself along. Focusing inward in order to extend outward with my spirit, not with my mind. So this exercise, just have that in mind as you do it. So as I draw the belly in here, there's a sense that something, especially from my back, is coming out and extending into the world. And then as I relax the belly and push it out, those hackles lie flat down again. Here, I'm extending my hackles. And then here, relaxing them. So a hackle is an erectile hair. So arousal produces erection. We all know that. But this is real fighting spirit arousal rather than sexual. But it's the same sort of thing. Drawing in order to extend out. I'm not drawing in to then extend out. My drawing in is extending me outwards. And then just back. So my quiet centeredness is a real readiness, a listening readiness that is always responsive. Okay, so let's just get the outside edges parallel. We've tended to get a bit sloppy with that, I have. So my big toe's definitely coming in a little bit. Feel how that opens around the sacrum, the sacroiliacs. So the more open these joints become at the back here, the more the sacrum will tend to angle backwards. Eye bum will tend to stick out. So I just want to sink down. I'm sinking down by bending the legs, but almost by collapsing my spine into my belly a little bit, just to get rid of that lower curve in the lumbar back, the lordosis. I definitely want the feeling that my sacrum is on the vertical. It's not angling back like this. When you get it, it will feel like it's coming under because you're so used to it going back. The heel should feel really heavy and dominant. Do the breathing again. I was walking in the park the other day and I passed a bench. And as I approached, I saw there were these three minor birds sitting on top of the bench, perched on the back of the bench. And as I approached, they flew away, and it was very clear what they did. In order to take off, they really sank down into their legs. Their legs sort of disappeared, and then they launched up, and then their wings took them away. So a real sense of sinking down, gathering your energy in order to launch yourself up. So here, this is very much gathering and storing, and then this is releasing. The energy is being stored in my legs, but also in my lower back. So the back curving up like this is basically storing energy. And then when I straighten the back and straighten the legs a little, that energy is expressed in the opening of the upper part of the spine and the arms. Okay, now let's just bring it back. So this ability to sink. Something here relaxes, releases, so that my knees can go out as I lower down into the legs. Despite the fact that my toes are coming in, and now let's just turn, but turning with that same sort of idea. So here I'm really sinking down into the leg, and then I extend and push round into this foot. I sink down into this leg, and then I extend round here. So I'm sort of sinking into the leg, storing the energy in the leg, and then expressing it, sinking into this leg, pushing with the legs. So I have to get down so that I can launch up. Just imagine you're carrying like a really heavy rucksack. So you have to use your legs really vigorously to get any movement. There's like a handle here, an imaginary handle that I grab, and then I really have to use my leg to pull. It's like a real physical labor. Let's just try this exercise that we used to do. And then just back up again. Work with the hackles. The previous one, we drew in, storing the energy, and then exploded out. Now what I want to do, this is difficult by the way, I want to draw in, but I'm drawing in order to extend my hackles. So I'm drawing in and getting a real sense that the hairs on my spine and on my neck are extending into the world, like a hedgehog that's erecting its spines. And each one of those spines sort of hooks onto something. And then what I do, I contract those spines, those hairs, I sort of pull with them. I can pull the things that I've hooked onto, and that will open me up. So it's ostensibly the same exercise, but we're just very different visualization. And now this is much more working from the energy, from the spirit. So I draw in, that extends my spirit outwards on these hairs or spines that are reaching out into the world. Each spine hooks onto something, and then I just contract the spine. Something in me has to, again, tighten in order to pull at the world that I've connected to. I'm pulling out of myself rather than exploding from inside. So here, as I draw in, I'm extending outwards into the world with my hackles. And then here I pull in order to pull myself outwards from inside, like I'm turning myself inside out. So this is more like pulling with the legs, or the monkey swinging through the trees. So the monkey extends an arm, hooks the arm onto a branch, and then contracts the arm. And it swings forwards. Here I'm pulling, I'm contracting the back, and those hairs are, you can either think of them pulling back in or just lying flat. And that brings my center, my front out of itself. And then here, now my hairs, my spines are standing on end. Each one of them has caught an aspect of the world beyond me. And then I just contract them and pull them back in. And that pulls me out. So you're emerging, and it's a very different energy to this emergence than when we explode out of an internal pressure. Basically, the front disappears and contracts inside. The back expands and reaches out. And then the back just pulls back in and the front comes out. We want to feel that this is an action that comes from listening. that comes from like the hunter's connection with the world. So here I'm hiding, I'm sinking. It seems as though I'm retreating into myself, but very much reaching out with my energy. And then I just relax that and my front will come out. This is much more subtle and much more energetic, less forceful. And now let's just try the turning again, but with that, I just tighten and pull in like we did, but I just do it with one side. So I tighten here and that will turn me towards it. But a real sense that my hackles are reaching out here. And I use those that catch the foot to pull myself around. So one side of the body is contracting the front in order to extend the back of the other side of the body. So it feels more natural when we do it alternately like this. If you are prowling in order to make as little sound as possible, this is how you'd be moving. You wouldn't be exploding out of yourself. You'd be extending your listening, and then you'd be drawing yourself with that. So each one of these hackles is a probe reaching out, and then I just hook onto something and just draw myself around with it. we want to feel the combined musculature of the body, but especially this ring here, behaving like a ring muscle. So when a ring muscle, when a sphincter contracts, it basically closes a hole. And then when it releases and relaxes, the hole opens. So that's what's happening when we do this exercise. I'm tightening the ring closed, and then here I'm just letting it relax and an aperture opens up. But what happens if I want to stretch that opening? For example, I want to open my mouth really wide. You know, when you go to the dentist and he says, open wide, and you open it, and he says, no, wider, and it's like almost impossible to get it as wide as he wants. So in order to get the ring muscle wider than its relaxed opening state, something from outside has to contract. So this is the feeling when I open my mouth really wide, something here, something outside of that hole contracts in order to pull it open. Same with the eyes. When my eyes bulge open, I feel it here and here. It's pulling from outside. So this is the sense we need a connection with the world beyond us so that we can stretch open ourselves and just become more receptive and more spirited, more alive and lively and alert and awake. So this is the sense with your listening. Something is going out, but it's catching and tightening, and that's pulling me into the world. So my ward off, my largeness, my roundness is not so much me expanding from inside. It's more something from outside that's pulling, that's contracting, like an astringency that's causing the muscle to sort of shrink a little bit. And that's just something that happens in the mind. So holding on here allows this reaching out to take place, and then something in me just has to become, it's almost like just becoming sort of bloody-minded or fierce. And then that catches, and I'm just pulled open, and things can leap out of me that are normally dormant. Some of the full and empty, because this is just such an important exercise. Just forgetting all that, what we've just done, and now just relax, come forwards and feel the energy rising as I fill the leg. Something comes up from the ground. So what I want it to do is reach all the way to my thymus and almost come out of this point and just go straight up. You can either think of it coming out here in front of the head or face, or you can think of it just going up the spine. And in order to get that travel upwards, what we want to feel is that this sacrum here has to be really relaxed, hanging down. There's a sense that my sacrum needs to be directly beneath my thymus for the energy to naturally want to come up and reach beyond. It's not enough for it simply to get up to here. I mean, that's a good start. I want the feeling that it's up here and then suddenly something just, something opens, relaxes, lets go. That's it. It's a release. Something releases and then something can float up from here. Your mind has to be in two places. One, with this release, but another with the sacrum that's heavy, getting the whole thing in proper alignment. So my sacrum and dantian are my stillness, what the Greeks called hesychia. And my sternum is with this lively, rising, longing or yearning, which the Greeks call thymos. So this is real prayer. It's an exercise that is releasing trapped energy that's in the ground and letting it filter up through you and go up to the heavens where it belongs. Now just getting the back leg involved as well. So as I come into the back leg, similarly something rises up. I'm moving into the leg because the leg is becoming round. So a real sense that this is bowing outwards a little bit. And it's becoming round. The becoming round is not so much this as an expansion that's caused by the contraction in my listening tentacles. So I'm coming forwards because this leg is becoming round, but it's becoming round because something out here is pulling at me. I came across a beautiful sentence. Pain is simply intense sensation, and sensation is just reality perceiving itself. So there's a world here. And that world would exist even if I left the room. I come into the room, I am part of that world. I am another thing, another object that's been added to that world. So what converts the world into reality is my engagement with it. I come into the room and I'm so intensely awake that I'm with everything in the room. I'm connecting to everything. There's no separation, almost like the world is just crushing in. And something in me has to be really fiercely active just to keep it just enough at bay so I don't get crushed. Then the world becomes real. So without me, there is no reality. And it's the same for all of us. Like the Buddhists say, each one of us is the center of the universe. So the universe is a multiplicity of centers. I am the center, you are the center. Each one of these objects in the room, which you can't see, but there's loads here. This is really cluttered. Each one of them is the center. I am a center that is connected, depending, interpenetrating with every other object in this immensely complex web of connectivity. And then that is reality. And I just have to become awake to that, aware of that, alert to that. And the two best things to wake you up really are pain and danger. Two things we do our utmost to avoid. And the promise of death. So I'm connected to everything. But those connecting threads, if you like, have got a little bit of life of their own. They've got sort of a resilience, so they're tugging at me. Everything is saying to me, wake up, I'm here, acknowledge me, welcome me. And you can feel that when you go out, especially when you're walking in like the park, something that's a little bit more natural than the home. When you just feel it, every time you pass a tree, that tree is calling to you. The animals are calling, the people walking past. We try our best not to acknowledge the other, not to make eye contact. But if you do, there's an explosion of affection and connection. It's the same with cats. I love doing it with the cats here. They all know me now, so they don't run away. And, I say hello to them. I say, shalom, because they're Israeli cats, so they don't understand English. And a lot of them will do, there's there's an acknowledgement of a connection of sorts. Let's try a little bit of the form. So I'll do it on the left side. So the mirror image of what you will probably be doing. So I'm sinking down into the leg. Now remember, I want that to extend the leg out into its roundness, into the outside edge of the foot. There's a sense that my heaviness is causing this to swell, but also a sense that my spirit is pulling from outside of me, is pulling me into this shape. So it's quite complex. There's lots of energies, lots of mechanisms. So I sink down into this foot. And now going around the foot, and then around this foot, and to here. So I've got most of the weight here. And now what I'm doing now is just I'm sinking physically to pull my hands down. And then as soon as I start turning, I'm expanding into roundness. So my ward off is very much the arms going out into roundness rather than the arms coming in into roundness. So here I'm opening up. Feel this leg rounding in order to pull. Let's go from the beginning again and do it from here. So I'm doing the left side, aren't I? So I sink down. So that's just an adjustment step. So let's try it once more from White Crane. So the weight is still in the back foot. Adjusting with the back foot, moving into it, play guitar. And I move back by really catching the ground and bending this leg. That's an adjustment step. Turn as much as you can, and then pull back with the back leg to pull yourself around, pulling with the front leg, pulling with the back leg, pulling with the back this leg, and then the other one brings it up. So keep this loose. Should have a lot of potential movement. It wants to move both ways. So as soon as it starts moving one way, it's being pulled back the other. So it's sort of vibrating. Same with the ground. Feet are pumping with the ground all the time. So the world becomes reality when you allow yourself to be transformed by it. And if it becomes transformative, then not only is it transforming you, but you are transforming it. It always works both ways. Really want to feel the good effects that we have on the world. when we connect with it in the right way, in a listening, respectful way, we encourage the world. We give it a little bit of courage. That's what I call enthusiasm. You know what they say, don't they? That I pray not because I need something from God, but because God needs prayer from me. My prayers sustain him. So this is the sense we're always repaying a gift. It's a service, it's a duty, an obligation, a responsibility. And if you listen, you are always being reminded of that. The world is constantly soliciting generosity from you. And if you don't feel that, then you're not awake. There's no reality. There's just a world. There's an outer world and there's an inner world, and there the twain shall meet. So I have to sort of really bridge that gap and make that membrane between the outer and my inner almost non-existent. And then it becomes real. And it becomes dangerous. And it's just full of such intensity. A lot of people would say it was painful, too much. Quite interesting when I massage people. It's the people that aren't very open that the massage hurts for. If the person is really open and relaxed, their flesh just opens up and lets my hands through, and they don't feel any pain. They just feel sensation. Whereas a tense person that's just cut off from their own energy, but also from the world, is constantly flinching and pulling in. Oh, don't do that. That's too much. Okay, let's finish. Start this walk as though it's being drawn out of you. Something is pulling me towards the computer. So it's not a habit. I don't just cut off from what I've previously been doing and go back into normal stupid mode. We have to try and just let the practice just bleed into our daily life so that everything is a little bit more special.